So in this video, I'm going to solve this problem, and the problem says you found the following annual average return and covariance metrics for three stocks: Amazon, ExxonMobil, and Walmart. So we are given average return of these each stock and also the covariance matrix. So this covariance matrix shows how the stock of these two company move together. And if you don't know what this covariance matrix, I encourage you to try to learn using different sources. So given this information, the question is asking us to answer the following four questions. The first one is, what is the expected return of equally weighted portfolio? Second question is, what is the standard deviation of equally weighted portfolio? Third question is, if the yield on treasury bill is 1.1%, what is the Sharpe ratio of equally weighted portfolio? And the final question is, what is the Sharpe ratio of optimal risky portfolio? So we can answer this question in different way, but I'm going to use Excel's power, Excel's function. I'm not going to use direct mathematical formula. And I have used these formula in other videos in order to answer this kind of question, and I definitely encourage you to do the same way, because if you know how to answer this kind of question using these formula from Excel, you can solve for any number of stocks portfolio. For now we have a 3 stock, but if you know how to do this, you can solve this kind of problem for 5 stock, 10 stock, 100 stock. It doesn't matter. So I want to use this. So in order to solve this problem, we need to first have the weights. So let's write here weights first, and based on the question, we start with the equal weights because it is asking us to find mean and standard deviation of equally portfolio. So therefore I'm going to do equals to 1/3 of money is being invested on Amazon. Now I can grab it and drag it. That means I'm investing equal amount of money on each of these 3 stocks. So I need one more information here: total of weights in order to solve the last question. Therefore I need here sum of all the weights. So I'm going to write here sum of all the weights, and that's going to be 1, which means the total investment on the stock should be equal to 100% of the capital. So this is the line we need to answer the last question. That's why I have written here. So once you have all these information, now you can calculate portfolio mean, portfolio variance, portfolio standard deviation, and portfolio Sharpe ratio. And I'm going to follow the formula right here. So portfolio mean, right here I'm going to write equals to, right, equals to, see how it is done, sum product, right, sum product. And once you write sum product, now W here means weights, okay, comma, mu means the average vector. So do this and enter, and that gives you the portfolio mean. And in order to compute portfolio variance, use the formula M multi here, and exactly the same way, and equals to, now I'm going to write mult, meaning matrix multiplication function of Excel. Now we need the transpose of W, right? The transpose of W means transpose of the weight vector, bracket close, comma, mult, again matrix multiplication of, now here sigma, which means the covariance matrix. And choose only the numbers, don't choose the text, okay? And comma, again the W, that means the weight, and bracket close and another bracket close, right? Once you input all this information, don't just enter. You have to press Control Shift Enter all together. Control Shift Enter, and that gives you the portfolio variance. Once you have the portfolio variance, now you can easily compute the portfolio standard deviation, which is the square root of the variance, right? So that gives us the portfolio standard deviation. So once you have portfolio mean and the portfolio standard deviation, you can compute Sharpe ratio. Remember, the Sharpe ratio is always equals to average return of portfolio minus risk-free rate over the standard deviation of portfolio, right? So average return of portfolio right here minus the risk-free rate given us here is 1.1%, right? And bracket close over the standard deviation. So that gives us the Sharpe ratio. That means we computed portfolio mean, portfolio standard deviation, and portfolio Sharpe ratio, and that answers first, second, and third question. Now we need to find Sharpe ratio for optimal risky portfolio. And before we do that, we need to understand what is optimal risky portfolio. And I've done this in many places, right? So optimal risky portfolio means the portfolio, right, that has the maximum Sharpe ratio. What we have to do is we have to use Excel's solver function to find the optimal risky portfolio. So let's go and use the solver function, and once you use the solver function, that gives us the optimal Sharpe ratio or optimal risky portfolio, right? So click on data, go to solver, and now we have the window, and now we have to put appropriate information. So in order to find the optimal risky portfolio, what you have to do is first you have to maximize, and what you have to maximize? You have to maximize the Sharpe ratio, right? This guy. That is our objective function. What do you want to change? We have to change the weights, right? So you can click on this arrow right here and change these weights. By changing these weights, we can compute the optimal risky portfolio weights. And now we need constraint, right? What constraint do we need? So sum of the weights should be equals to 1. Therefore, it's add. Remember the sum we had earlier? This guy right here, C7, that must be equal to 1. So, okay. So once you make this selection, you can click solve. But there's one more option you can choose, whether you want to check this make on constraint variable non-negative or not. I'm gonna not touch this. So click solve, right? And okay. And now see, it changed the weights, and these weights are the weights for optimal risky portfolio, and the resulting Sharpe ratio is the Sharpe ratio for optimal risky portfolio. And that is the answer to question number 4.